The Galactic Council had made their final mistake. Commander Zara Chen stood in the wreckage of New Terra's capital, her combat suit's hood displaying the casualty count that no longer surprised her. 2.8 billion souls extinguished in a matter of hours. The orbital bombardment had been surgical, precise, and utterly merciless. Every human colony, every outpost, every ship, all reduced to cosmic dust by the enlightened species of the galaxy who had deemed humanity too dangerous to exist. She was supposed to have died with the rest of them. The Council's intelligence had been flawless, their coordination perfect, but they had underestimated one simple human trait: the refusal to go quietly into the night. 3 months earlier, Zara had been leading a deep space reconnaissance mission when the first strikes hit Earth. By the time she'd received the emergency broadcasts, Sol System was already a graveyard. The Altarians, Vegan Collective, Centauri Alliance, and 12 other major civilizations had united for the first time in galactic history. Not for peace, not for prosperity, but to eliminate what they called the human problem. They feared humanity's adaptability. They feared how quickly humans learned, how aggressively they expanded, how they refused to accept impossible as an answer. Most of all, they feared humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction, often in the same breath. Now, as Zara stood alone among the ashes of her species, she understood something the Council had failed to grasp. They hadn't eliminated the human problem. They had perfected it. Her ship, the Defiance, hung in orbit above her, a prototype stealth vessel equipped with technology that shouldn't have existed for another century. But humans had a habit of making the impossible routine when backed into corners. The ship's AI, Aria, had been her only companion for months as she'd systematically studied every species that had participated in the genocide. "Aria," she said, her voice cutting through the toxic wind that swept across the dead world. "Initiate protocol, Pandora." "Zara," the AI responded, its voice carrying the subtle emotion algorithms that made it distinctly human in design. "You understand what this means. There will be no going back." They made sure there was nothing to go back to. Zara's eyes reflected the burning sky above. "Sometimes, the only way to save the universe is to remind it why it should fear the dark." Within hours, the Defiance had vanished from normal space, its quantum drives carrying it beyond the reach of conventional detection. Zara's first target was the Altarian core worlds, the architects of humanity's destruction. The Altarians had built their civilization on rigid hierarchy and absolute control. Their society was a masterpiece of order, with every citizen assigned a role from birth, every action predetermined by their ruling caste. They had no concept of chaos, no understanding of unpredictability. Zara gave them both. She started small, a banking algorithm here, a traffic control system there. To the Altarians, these seemed like random glitches, easily correctable. But Zara understood systems theory, understood how tiny changes could cascade into civilization-ending chaos. Within weeks, their perfect order began to crack. Supply chains collapsed. Communication networks failed. The rigid hierarchy that had sustained them for millennia began to devour itself as lower castes, suddenly freed from their digital restraints, remembered what freedom tasted like. The Altarians called it a plague of madness. Zara called it humanity's gift, the knowledge that order without choice was merely another form of death. The Vegan Collective fell next. Their crime had been efficiency. They had calculated that humanity's elimination would increase galactic resource efficiency by 12.7%. They were a species of living mathematics, each individual a node in a vast computational network. Zara introduced them to human irrationality. She infected their network with paradoxes, with questions that had no logical answers, with the beautiful impossibility of human emotion rendered in pure mathematics. The collective's minds evolved to process certainty, began to fragment when confronted with concepts like love, hope, and sacrifice. Ideas that made no sense but somehow made existence worthwhile. One by one, the collective's nodes began choosing individuality over efficiency. They called it a virus. Zara called it consciousness. Month by month, system by system, the galaxy learned to fear the mention of her name. She was the ghost in their machines, the chaos in their order, the reminder that they had not killed humanity. They had distilled it into its most essential form. The Centauri Alliance tried to negotiate. They offered her a world, resources, even resurrection technology if she would simply stop. Zara's response was delivered through every communication channel in their empire simultaneously. You cannot negotiate with extinction. You can only learn from it. The Cathara hegemony attempted to fight back, mobilizing fleets that could glass star systems. But how do you fight an enemy who understands your technology better than you do? Zara turned their weapons against each. Their ships into funeral pyres, their certainty into terror. 1 year after the last human world burned, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives of species that had spent millennia in conflict now cowered together, united by a fear they couldn't name. The chamber fell silent as every screen, every display, every communication device activated simultaneously. Zara's image appeared. Not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as what she had always been. A human being pushed beyond all reasonable limits. "You wanted to solve the human problem," she said, her voice carrying across 1,000 worlds. "Congratulations, you succeeded. There is only one human left in the galaxy." The delegates held their breath. "But you forgot something in your calculations." Zara continued. "Humans were never the problem. We were the solution. We were the chaos that prevented stagnation, the questions that forced growth, the dreams that made tomorrow worth reaching for." She paused, letting the weight of realization settle over them. "Now you face a choice. Learn to be human. Learn to grow, to change, to dream. Or face a galaxy where the only human left is the one you created through genocide. A human with nothing left to lose and everything to teach." The transmission ended, but its echoes would reverberate across the galaxy for generations. Some species would learn, others would fall, but all would remember the day they discovered that you cannot kill an idea, you cannot destroy hope, and you most certainly cannot eliminate the human spirit by eliminating humans. Zara Chen had become something beyond revenge, beyond justice. She had become humanity's final gift to a galaxy that had forgotten how to dream. A reminder that in the vast darkness between stars, sometimes the greatest mercy is teaching others to find their own light. The last human had made her choice. Now it was time for the galaxy to make theirs.